Poverty isn't just about lack of money. It's a complex issue with numerous contributing factors. The first factor to consider is education. Educational attainment is often a strong predictor of future income. In many parts of the world, access to quality education remains a privilege, not a right, leaving millions of kids behind. For instance, UNESCO estimates that 1 in 5 children, adolescents, and youth worldwide is out of school. This lack of education limits their ability to break free from poverty in the future. Next, we have unemployment. It's pretty straightforward. Without a job, it's difficult to earn money. The International Labor Organization reports that about 190 million people globally are jobless. The pandemic's impact has only exacerbated this, with unemployment rates skyrocketing in many countries. Then there's social inequality. It's like a stubborn stain that's hard to wash off. It's a complex web of disparities in income, wealth, power, and status. Social inequality often leads to a lack of opportunities for those at the bottom of the pyramid, perpetuating the cycle of poverty. Disease is another significant factor. Illness can deplete a family's resources, pushing them into poverty. The World Health Organization states that each year, approximately 100 million people are driven into poverty due to healthcare expenses. Lastly, let's not forget about war. Areas affected by conflict often face devastating poverty. The World Bank notes that by the end of 2023, almost half of the world's poor could be living in countries affected by high levels of violence. Understanding these factors helps us see why poverty is not simply an economic issue, but a social one as well. This understanding is essential to create effective strategies to combat poverty. It's not just about giving money, it's about addressing these underlying issues. So, as we move forward to the next scene, let's keep this complexity in mind. Poverty doesn't just happen, it's a cycle, and it's a hard one to break. Imagine a wheel spinning. It's easy to keep it moving, right? Now, envision poverty as this wheel. It's a cycle, a vicious circle that once set in motion is incredibly challenging to stop. But why? Let's delve into the mechanics of this cycle and how it perpetuates through generations. So, you're born into a low-income family. The chances are high that you'll have limited access to quality education, a fundamental building block for future success. Without a solid educational foundation, your employment prospects are restricted, often to low-wage jobs. This in turn limits your earnings, keeping you in the same socioeconomic bracket you were born into. But it doesn't stop there. As a low-wage earner, you're more likely to live in areas with fewer resources, including access to healthcare, safe housing, even nutritious food. This lack of resources can lead to health problems, further limiting your ability to work and earn. It's a downward spiral and the wheel keeps spinning. Now imagine trying to break free from this cycle. It's like trying to stop a spinning wheel with your bare hands. It's difficult, isn't it? This is the reality for many people trapped in the cycle of poverty. Data shows that only about 13 out of every 100 children born into the lowest income bracket will make it to the top bracket as adults. That's less than 15%. The rest, 85%, remain trapped in the cycle. This isn't just about individual failures or lack of effort. It's about a system that makes it incredibly hard for people to climb out of poverty, a system that needs to change. Breaking the cycle of poverty requires more than just money. It requires systemic change. It requires us to rethink how we distribute resources, how we provide access to quality education, healthcare, and housing. It's about creating an environment where everyone, regardless of their birth circumstances, has a fair shot at success. Wealth is not distributed equally around the world. Some have much, while others have very little. Let's dive into the world's wealth distribution. Imagine, if you will, a pie. This pie represents the world's total wealth. Now, if this pie were sliced evenly, every country would have an equal share. But alas, this is not the case. The pie is sliced unevenly, with some countries getting a hefty chunk and others barely getting a sliver. According to the Global Wealth Report, the most affluent nations, such as the United States, China, and Japan, hold nearly 2/3 of the world's wealth. On the other end of the spectrum, the poorest nations, many of which are in Africa, hold less than 1%. This disparity is stark. While some nations bask in the wealth of skyscrapers, high-speed railways, and advanced technology, others grapple with dilapidated infrastructure, limited access to basic amenities, and a lack of education and healthcare. This disparity is not just a matter of luxury versus necessity. It's a matter of life and death. This uneven distribution of wealth is not a natural occurrence. It's the result of a complex web of economic policies, historical circumstances, and power dynamics. It's perpetuated by unjust trade practices, tax evasion, and corruption, which drain resources from poorer nations and funnel them into the coffers of the wealthier ones. The result is a world where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. A world where a child born in a wealthy nation enjoys a vastly different quality of life than a child born in a poor one. A world where opportunities are not evenly distributed, where your birthplace can determine your fate. This global disparity in wealth is not just an economic issue, it's a moral one. It raises questions about fairness, justice, and equality. It asks us to consider what kind of world we want to live in and what we're willing to do to create it. The uneven distribution of wealth is a major factor in global poverty. But what can we do about it? Solving poverty is not easy, but there are strategies that can make a difference. Let's dive into some potential solutions. The first is education. Education is the key that unlocks potential, that transforms lives, that breaks the chains of poverty. It's not just about teaching children to read and write, but equipping them with the skills to navigate the fast-paced, technology-driven world we live in. In Finland, for instance, a strong emphasis on education has played a crucial role in reducing poverty rates. Next, we have job creation. It's not enough to just have jobs. They need to be good, stable jobs that provide a living wage. In Germany, the introduction of the social market economy post-World War II led to a boom in job creation, which in turn drastically reduced poverty levels. Social programs are another key part of the puzzle. These are initiatives by the government to provide support to those in need, whether it's in the form of food stamps, housing assistance, or healthcare. In Canada, their robust social programs have seen a significant decrease in poverty rates over the past few decades. And finally, we come to wealth redistribution. This is a more controversial solution, but it's been shown to have an impact. The idea is to take wealth from the richest in society and redistribute it to the poorest. It's not about taking everything from the rich and giving it to the poor, but about creating a more equal society where everyone has a fair shot. In Sweden, wealth redistribution policies have helped to create one of the most equal societies in the world. But remember, these solutions aren't mutually exclusive. They work best when used together, creating a multi-pronged approach to tackling poverty. And it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. What works in one country might not work in another. Poverty is a complex issue, but with the right strategies, we can make a difference. The first step is understanding the problem.